Let's be honest. Most people won't tell you they dislike you. They won't argue. They won't confront you. Instead, they'll do something worse. Pretend. They'll smile in your face, toss out a friendly "hey," maybe even leave a nice comment under your post. But something's off. You can feel it in their timing, their tone, the way their compliments land just a little too hard. You're not imagining it. I've felt it too. I once thought someone was genuinely on my side until I realized they only clapped when I was quiet, never when I was winning. It wasn't support, it was surveillance. And by the time I caught on, I'd already opened up too much. See, when we miss the signs, when we ignore that subtle discomfort, we end up giving the best parts of ourselves to people who secretly resent us. Not because we did something wrong, but because they were never really for us in the first place. The worst part? They won't make it obvious. It's never, "I can't stand you." It's, "I've just been really busy lately." Right after they post a beach day with the same people who forgot to invite you. Or they hit you with a compliment so strange, you're not sure whether to say thank you or block them. And look, nobody wants to be paranoid. But there's a difference between being paranoid and being aware. The signs are there. Quiet, yes, but clear, once you know how to spot them. So today, we're not going to guess. We're going to look clearly, because the truth is, once you learn to read people's behavior without making excuses, your peace stops depending on their approval. Let's get into it. Let's dive in. 1. They're always joking about your flaws. Some people don't insult you directly, they just joke constantly, and somehow the punchline is always you. They smile while they do it. They act like it's nothing. "You're too sensitive," they'll say. "Relax, it's just a joke." But it's not. Not really. It starts small. A comment about how you dress. "Didn't know we were dressing for laundry day." A dig at how you speak. "You always sound like you're narrating your own TED Talk." At first, you laugh. You want to believe it's harmless, that they're just being playful. But if you pay attention, you'll notice something strange. The jokes never land on anyone else, just you. And they always hit the same spot, the place where you're still a little unsure of yourself. I had someone in my life who did this often. Every time I tried something new, a project, a goal, even just dressing differently, they had a quip ready. It wasn't open criticism, just quick, funny little lines, always with that same grin. They never joked about my strengths, only my doubts, and they never missed. What finally made me stop laughing was the pattern, because the jokes weren't random. They were tactical. Always delivered when I was feeling confident, always followed by, "Come on, don't be so serious." But it didn't feel like teasing. It felt like control, hidden under charm. Here's the thing, we're taught not to overreact. To laugh with people, not at them. To be easygoing, and that's fine until you become easy to disrespect. Especially when the disrespect wears a smile and blends in with humor. The danger is, over time, you start adjusting yourself around that person. You shrink. You hold back your excitement. You play smaller, quieter, safer, just to avoid being their next punchline. You learn to mute parts of your personality, just to keep the peace. But let's get one thing straight. Real friends don't mock the parts of you that are still growing. They don't point out every scar and call it a joke. And they definitely don't confuse teasing with connection. If someone only feels comfortable when you're uncomfortable, that's not friendship, that's performance, and you're just the material. So what can you do? You start noticing. You stop explaining their behavior away. You say to yourself, "I don't have to laugh just because everyone else is." And maybe next time they make a joke at your expense, you gently flip it back. You say, "Interesting, you always find something to point out." Why do you think that is? Not with anger, just with awareness. Watch what happens. The room might shift. They might get quiet. Because you've done something powerful. You've stopped being part of the act. And here's the truth. People will always test how much of yourself you're willing to trade for approval. The question is, when the laughter fades, will you still recognize the version of yourself you've been protecting? Choose the friends who celebrate your confidence, not the ones who chip away at it to get a laugh. 2. Compliments that sting like insults. Some words sound sweet until they land. Then you feel it, that quiet sting behind the smile, a compliment that doesn't lift you up. It leaves you off balance, confused, questioning. You look great for your age. This is actually better than I expected. You're smarter than you seem. They say it like they're handing you a gift, but when you open it, it's just a mirror with a crack in it. You're left smiling politely while your inner voice is going, wait, should I be grateful? Or mildly insulted. It's like someone offering you dessert and saying, wow, this is edible. You're glad they noticed, but also what? I once finished a project I was really proud of, something that had taken months of focus and care. When I shared it with someone I thought supported me, their reaction was, wow, this is actually really solid. I didn't think this kind of thing was your strength. That actually hit harder than a passive-aggressive email with a smiley face at the end. I wasn't being celebrated, I was being measured, subtly, silently, and I had just passed a test I never agreed to take. Here's the thing with compliments like these, they're hard to pin down. They're not loud or obviously cruel, they're soft, polished, carefully disguised. So if you react, you might even hear, I was being nice. Why are you so touchy? Like you're the problem for not appreciating the support. But the truth is, these comments aren't meant to uplift. They're meant to keep you in check. They remind you in their own elegant little way that your growth is surprising and maybe even inconvenient. It's a quiet form of power, a sideways glance disguised as praise, and sometimes the person doing it doesn't even realize it. They're just uncomfortable with how much you've changed. They liked the old version of you, the one that made them feel ahead, the one they could easily categorize. Now, you're growing, and it's messing with their internal hierarchy. So what do? You don't need to argue. You don't need to break into a TED Talk about microaggressions. Sometimes all it takes is a simple question. What did you mean by that? Try it. Watch their face. You might witness a live software crash. If someone meant well, they'll clarify. If they didn't, they'll deflect. And now, you know. Because here's the bottom line. Real compliments don't come with a side of shade. They don't feel like a roast with a ribbon on top. They make you feel seen, not tolerated, uplifted, not managed. So if someone keeps complimenting you in a way that makes you feel smaller, it might be time to stop laughing politely and start reading between the lines. You're not here to be quietly insulted by someone who's smiling too hard. You're here to grow, and anyone who can't handle that can keep their compliments, and they're actually to themselves. 3. They subtly exclude you from plans. Sometimes the silence says everything. There's no argument, no confrontation, just a group dinner you weren't told about, a weekend trip you see in someone's story, a casual, oh yeah, we all went, it was super last minute dropped like it's nothing. Meanwhile, you're sitting there holding your phone like, did my invitation fall into the shadow realm? They'll act surprised. You weren't there? Oh, I thought someone told you. We figured you were probably busy. But if this happens more than once, newsflash, it's not bad planning, it's a quiet message. They made the decision, and it didn't include you. I've been there, opening Instagram and seeing a full group photo, everyone grinning like they're on a reunion tour. And I'm not even in the crowd shot. I scroll, I pause. I wait for that voice in my head to say, it was probably just a mistake. But deep down, another part of me already knows. It wasn't. What hurts about this isn't just the missing invitation, it's what it suggests. That you were never top of mind, that your presence wasn't necessary, that they planned their joy and didn't picture you in it. And the excuses, they're Olympic level. We thought you were busy. Meanwhile, you were home watching a documentary about the psychology of rejection, or worse, refreshing the group chat like it owes you emotional closure. Here's the hard truth. People don't forget those they want to include. No one forgets their favorite person when booking a table. If anything, they double-check, they reach out, they make sure. And when that effort isn't there consistently, it's not forgetfulness, it's avoidance dressed in politeness. It's an unspoken, "you're not really part of this anymore," wrapped in casual language. I remember the moment I stopped accepting those soft lies. I didn't explode, I didn't shame anyone. I just asked, "Hey, I saw you all went out. Was I not supposed to be there?" Suddenly, the room shifted. People got quiet, like I'd just brought emotional accountability to a meme thread. Some deflected, some apologized, but no one could explain the absence of effort. That was all I needed to see. And look, not every missed invite is personal. People get distracted. Life moves fast. But when you're the one always being forgotten, there's a pattern. And pretending it's all accidental only protects the people doing the excluding, not you. So here's what I've learned. Real friends don't need to be reminded you exist. They remember, they reach out, they make room. And if someone keeps subtly pushing you to the edge, hoping you'll quietly fade, give them what they want. Step out. But do it with your head high and your peace intact. Because no plan is worth chasing if you're only ever invited as an afterthought. 4. They're busy only when it comes to you. Everyone's busy, we get that. Life is a whirlwind of responsibilities, calendar reminders, and half-finished to-do lists. But let's be honest, when someone's always busy, and somehow it's only when you're the one reaching out, that's not a packed schedule. That's a polite no wrapped in productivity speak. At first, you brush it off. Totally understandable, you say. We all have stuff going on. But then, you start noticing things. You see them grabbing lunch with mutual friends, posting photos at some pop-up event you didn't even know existed. Suddenly they're available for brunches, book clubs, rooftop yoga with strangers. But somehow, they're too swamped to respond to your text from 2 Thursdays ago. I remember trying to reconnect with someone I genuinely cared about. Every time I reached out, I got a version of "I'm just so slammed right now." Meanwhile, their feed looked like a travel blog. They had time for everyone except me. I started wondering if their calendar app had a filter labeled "Ignore messages from this one specific person." And that's when it hit me. Busy isn't always about time. It's about priority. People find time for what matters, even in small ways. A message, a 5-minute call, a simple "thinking of you." If they never do, it's not because they can't, it's because they don't want to. Now here's where we get stuck. We assume it must be something we did. We think, maybe I was too eager, maybe they need space. We start crafting these emotional alibis for them, like defense attorneys in our own heartbreak case. But at some point, you have to stop explaining away someone else's silence and just listen to it. Sometimes the clearest answer is no response at all. I've also been on the other side. There was a time when I avoided someone not out of malice, just because I didn't know how to say, "We've grown apart." And that's part of the truth too. Not all distance is dramatic. Some of it is just drift, quiet, honest, and hard to name. But you can still make peace with it. So if someone always seems busy when it's you, don't keep knocking. Don't keep offering your time like it's a free sample tray at the mall. You're not something to be tested and passed over. You're a person, and the right people don't need reminders that you matter. They just know. When someone wants you in their life, They won't ghost you like you're a spam call. They'll show up, even if it's messy, even if it's small, and you'll feel the difference. It won't be about making time. It'll be about making space for you. 5. They avoid physical contact like the plague. Most people don't think twice about casual touch, a friendly hug, a handshake, a pat on the back after a long day. These little things may not seem important, but they're how we say, "You're safe with me." And when someone consistently avoids even the smallest gesture of connection, it speaks volumes without saying a word. At first, you might brush it off. Maybe they're just not a touchy person. But then you see them high-fiving everyone else, hugging people like it's a rom-com montage, and suddenly you realize it's not a general thing, it's a you thing. I had a colleague once who was basically a human golden retriever. Affectionate, warm, always ready with a handshake or shoulder squeeze. But when I reached out, it was like I had just sneezed into my palm. They'd flinch, lean back, or suddenly become fascinated with their phone screen. It got to the point where I started wondering if I had unknowingly broken some ancient code of personal space. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just random, it was patterned, repeated, predictable. Now, let's be fair. Some people really aren't into physical contact. That's okay. But the red flag isn't in the absence of touch. It's in the selectiveness of it. If they're hugging everyone else at the party and you get the nod from across the room treatment, that's not shyness. That's distance with a purpose. And look, it's not about needing hugs every day like some emotional golden retriever yourself. It's about the atmosphere, the vibe, the sense of ease between people. When someone subtly recoils every time you move closer, it's hard not to feel like you're radioactive. You start overthinking everything. Was it something I said? Is my deodorant failing me? Am I projecting weird energy? But eventually you realize it's not you being too much. It's them being unwilling. Avoiding physical contact isn't just about avoiding touch. It's about avoiding closeness, vulnerability, emotional warmth. And when someone consistently keeps you at arm's length, literally, they're saying, this connection has limits. So what do? You don't chase their comfort. You stop trying to become smaller just to fit inside the space they've allocated for you. You respect their boundary, and then you ask yourself if you're okay with where it puts you. Because you deserve to be around people who don't treat your presence like a social allergy. People who aren't afraid to stand next to you, sit beside you, or, God forbid, offer a friendly fist bump without needing a risk assessment. Physical connection doesn't have to be dramatic, but it should feel natural. And when it's missing, your body will often notice before your mind does. So trust that feeling. It's not needy, it's just human. 6. They disappear. When you need support, crisis doesn't just reveal character, it reveals connection. When life hits hard, when everything suddenly feels heavy, you learn quickly who's really with you and who suddenly becomes terrible at texting. It's not always dramatic. You're going through something, maybe a breakup, a loss, or just one of those weeks where your soul feels like it needs a software update. You reach out, not with a massive SOS, but with something small, a quiet, "Hey, things are rough," and then radio silence. They vanish like your message got lost in a spam folder labeled too emotionally demanding. I remember going through one of the hardest times in my life, the kind of season where even opening the fridge felt like an emotional task. And the people I thought would be there, the ones I'd dropped everything for before, suddenly they were really swamped, about to respond, or mysteriously unavailable for 3 months. And look, I wasn't asking for someone to show up at my door with soup and a 6-part life strategy. I just needed a message, a moment, something that said, "Hey, I see you." Instead, I got ghosted so thoroughly I started to wonder if I'd become emotionally invisible. That's the part no one warns you about. It's not just their absence. It's the realization that you were only ever welcome when you didn't need anything, when you were fun, light, upbeat. But the moment your energy shifted, the moment you showed up with real emotions, they dipped like it was a fire drill. And yes, people get busy, life happens, but nobody is too busy for a 15-second thinking of you. Let's be real, we've all sent memes while half asleep and binge-watched entire series we didn't even like. So if someone can't send one message when you're down bad, they're not busy, they're just not that invested. Eventually, I stopped giving them the benefit of the doubt. Not out of bitterness, just out of clarity. Because if you keep chasing support from people who consistently drop the ball, you'll spend your hardest moments carrying your pain and your disappointment. That's too much weight for anyone. So if they disappear the moment you stop being cheerful, let them. That's not your person. That's your reminder. And when you find the ones who stay, the ones who text back during your 3 a.m. spiral, or sit beside you without needing you to cheer up, hold on to them. Those people aren't just part of your life, they're part of your survival. 7. They gossip about you behind your back. There's something uniquely awful about realizing someone you trusted has been talking about you. Not with you, not to help you, but about you. Quietly, in rooms you're not in. With people you didn't even know had opinions about your personal life. And it rarely starts with a loud betrayal. No dramatic fallout. No text that says, "Hey, just so you know, I've been leaking your private business for fun." No, it's more subtle than that. A weird look from someone you barely know. A question that feels a little too specific. You start connecting dots and then boom, you realize you're not crazy. You're just being recapped like a mid-season Netflix plotline. I've been there. I once confided in someone I thought had my back. Nothing dramatic, just a personal moment, something vulnerable. And a few days later, pieces of it started floating back to me. Slightly edited, slightly twisted, but unmistakably mine. It was like hearing my own voice played through someone else's speaker and suddenly realizing the volume had been turned all the way up. Gossip always pretends to be harmless. I was just venting. I'm only telling people I trust. It's not bad, I swear. But let's be honest. If someone shares your pain like it's a group project, they're not helping. They're curating your collapse for their own relevance. And it's not just the words, it's the double performance. They'll still act sweet to your face, still like your posts, maybe even send you a "thinking of you" DM while crafting a behind-the-scenes commentary about your emotional state. It's betrayal with an Instagram filter. And here's the part that messes with your head. It doesn't just make you angry, it makes you suspicious, paranoid. You start wondering who else knows your story and how many versions of it are floating around. You tighten up, share less, smile more. You develop what I call emotional minimalism, only offering safe, surface-level content that even a gossipy coworker couldn't twist. But here's what I've learned. Gossip isn't about truth. It's about control. It's about someone else trying to own your story because they're too uncomfortable facing their own. So what do? You don't start a group text war. You don't need to post vague quotes about snakes in the grass. You just stop giving them access. Quietly, intentionally, you shift your energy. You close the door they used to walk through, and you remind yourself that your vulnerability is a privilege, not public property. Because real friends don't treat your personal life like breaking news. They don't use your private struggles as content. They hold your story the way you would hold theirs. Gently, respectfully, and never for show. And the people who gossip, let them talk, let them perform. But don't let them near your heart again, because if they couldn't protect your name when you weren't around, They don't deserve to hear your truth when you are. You don't need loud exits or dramatic farewells, just clarity, distance, and the quiet strength to walk away from what no longer honors you, because your value isn't up for debate, and your time is not a public resource. Remember, the way you protect your peace teaches others how to treat you. Those who honor their energy usually click subscribe. That's where we'll leave it for today.